Welcome to the Daily Shift. You heard that right. The Daily Shift. The show where we block out the noise and speak truth, train your mind, and help you become the absolute best version of yourself. Leo and Andrew are on their way. You're in the right place. And while you're here, take a breath. We're about to dive in. The show starts in 30 seconds. You ready? Take a deep breath in and breathe it out. Prepare for your shift.
Here we are. Welcome to the podcast, the Truco Real Estate Podcast. Today is a very special episode with a very special guest, and I am excited for you to meet him. This is a gentleman I met a couple of years ago, and on this podcast, our objective is to bring you actionables and inspiration. And so my prayer would be today's episode leaves you with not only actionables, so if you're in a place to do so, grab a pen, grab a paper, get ready to write, but also incredible insights and inspiration, because Kris is someone who has become a dear friend over the last couple of years. He came into our world, became a part of our mastermind community, and I've just watched him blossom. Someone who came from the prison house to the millionaire status, and you're going to love what Kris is about to share. And he runs multiple businesses today, has a beautiful family, and he's one of those guys who he just knows how to win. So I want to introduce to you my friend and brother, Kris Dickey. What's up, my brother?
What's up, Andrew? How's everybody doing today?
So good, man. How you feeling?
Awesome. Thanks for having
Good.
me.
Absolutely. So let's dive right in, man. First off, before we get too deep, let's start out with the 20-second synopsis. What your real estate investing and other businesses look like today, because you're working multiple businesses. Give us that 30-second insight. We'll dig in later. And then I want to rewind us back to where it all began. So what do you do today, and what are you running, and what you got going?
Got multiple projects going. Today, as far as my real estate business, I'm currently working on a new construction project. We've got a new single family build going on just across the river here. Working on a big 27 acre development. We're got a proposal for 67 single family houses to go on that. I've got some buy and hold rental properties, doing some fix and flip. Got in the licensing process on an Airbnb right now. Multiple things on the real estate business. Also got a couple partners in a logistics business that we're just getting launched, and also putting together a program for helping young men to level up in their lives as well. So a lot of different things going.
I love that. You're always winning, and you're someone who always has good things happening. And something I'll say about you, Kris, when something comes up, an opportunity, you are always someone who is top of mind because I know you're someone who gets stuff done. And while, of course, you don't have the bandwidth to do everything, I know if it's something you say, I'm in, I know that you're in. And I can always count on you in that way. And that's such a beautiful trait to have. And I appreciate you for that. But let's rewind a little bit. Um, Take me back from the prison house to the millionaire status. Like, where did it begin? Who was Kris Dickey a couple decades back? And give me kind of that backstory.
Brief backstory: a couple decades back, I was full of orneriness and hard headed. Learned lessons very slowly, and got had a lot of self inflicted challenges in my life. Um, what I guess kind of fast forward a little bit. I bounced around from meaningless job to meaningless job, and didn't really feel like I had a purpose in life. Uh, one of those places I landed was installing floors. I had a labor job installing floors, and learned that trade, and really started to kind of see behind the scenes on how business ran. Eventually, I worked my way up to an installer in that profession, and branched off, started my own business, started running a business. Did that for probably about 10 years, and I started saving. I didn't know much about real estate. I knew that I wanted to start accumulating some houses, and I just started saving up a little bit of money, and I would buy a cheap house, fix it up, refinance it, go buy another one, save up a little more money, fix it up, and was just moving real slowly doing that. Um, fast forward, a few years later, I get around the right people, get around people that really helped me to fast track and completely shifted the dynamic of everything that I was doing. So that's been a key piece for me.
So I want to peel that back a bit, but before we do, give me the insight. First off, what did you serve time for, and how long did you go away for?
Well, I was in and out of jail quite a bit, mostly for drinking, drinking and driving. That's what I went to prison for, was DUIs. Had a my driver's license kept getting suspended. I'm from a small town, and you when I kept going in front of the same judge, my license would be suspended, and I get a DUI with a suspended driver's license. He didn't. That was frowned on.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sure. I'm sure. So what was that wake up call for you that finally one day you're like, you know what? I've been doing this whole loop for way too long. Like, what am I doing? Where did that wake up call happen?
I ended up going to treatment. Is
Mm,
is what happened. I got After I got out of prison, I got in trouble again. It didn't take too long. I got in trouble again and was working on going back. Um, and it just occurred to me one day that my life wasn't ever going to change unless I started doing something different.
yeah.
The common
Powerful
denominator
breakthrough.
in the common denominator in all the challenges I had was me.
That's a writer downer. I think that is such a powerful thing though when that realization happens. So you fast forward, you mentioned you're doing the slow building phase. Well, bring everybody up to speed. So you've got an amazing wife and a awesome daughter. So tell us a little bit about your family and when and where that started.
Well, my wife and I actually just celebrated 11 years of marriage. Um, Actually, maybe it's 12. No, it's 11. 11. Don't let her see this. 11
Congratulations.
years. Yeah. We just celebrated 11 years of marriage. I've got a 10-year-old little girl, and just you know, I crossed paths with the right woman. She checked all the boxes, the perfect fit for me, and it's been history ever since.
Yeah.
We're living out that happily ever after right now.
I love that, man. I love that perspective. And I think it's something I've watched you blossom in recent couple of years that I've known you, and you've been a part of our extended family, our mastermind community, is just the growth you've had as a husband and a father, which is so powerful, and a leader. But take me down that road, because I want to. You mentioned doing the basically the Burr method: buy, rent, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, the whole deal, slowly growing. And then you mentioned getting around the right people, and without being too presumptuous, I assume that meant us. And so tell me a little bit about what that means to you, and how did that shift happen, and what was the hurdles in your mind that took you from gathering a property at a time and doing it the slow way to finally kind of that dam breaking, and you're like, wait a second.
Well, I was at a meetup. I was at a local meetup. It's probably been 2.5 years ago,
Yeah.
and actually another one of your mastermind students was on the panel, and he had shared about buying a property with utilizing owner financing. And after he got done giving the lead, I went up and talked to him and asked him. I said, "Well, how'd you guys negotiate the interest rate on that?" And he said, "What interest?" And up until that point, it never even crossed my mind anything about owner financing. I went home. My wife asked me. She said, "Well, how was that? How was that meetup?" I said, "I think it just changed my whole life." And then about 2 weeks later, I crossed paths with you. You were doing a meetup here locally and talking about buying on terms. And you had an offer to come to Orlando to an event you were putting on. I went home and talked to my wife, make sure I wasn't going to be in the doghouse. I bought a plane ticket to Orlando, and flew to Orlando about a month later. And that's how we got hooked up.
And that's something else for anyone listening to this, to just be able to take action, to make decisions quickly, to fail forward fast, because you will make wrong decisions. And then when you find the right one, as you did, Kris, you said, you know what, my whole life just changed with this new information. And I don't know what meetup that was at that you originally heard, but I bet there was 30 other people there who took the same information in and didn't do a darn thing with it. And it's your prime example of someone who hears something and then immediately goes and puts it to work when it's driving your life forward. So I want to hear a little bit about that. You're starting out, you're doing the Burr method, you hear about creative finance. What's that been like the last about 2 years now since we met? You come to Orlando, you became part of the mastermind community. How has your business and life changed?
Well, I have, as far as, well, I talk about my life also. My personal relationships with my family has completely shifted the dynamic of that. It was good before, but it's rapidly enhanced on account of just improved communication skills. Some
Mm.
of our mastermind retreats. When I came into the mastermind, I primarily came in to figure out how to make more money and quicker and scale. It was all around business stuff, and the impact that it's had on my personal relationships in my life, my physical fitness, my morning routine. I was challenged in a lot of areas that I did not anticipate being challenged in, and the business has rapidly grown. I've grown professionally in a lot of areas, but I think what's even more important than that is all the other areas of my life that's completely transformed on account of I don't even know so much that all of it was new information, but the accountability and just the community and the atmosphere that you guys provided for me.
What, just digging into that, what before had you tried that? Because your life wasn't bad, right? It wasn't like when we met that you was in dire straits, but what was it you had been trying in the slow growth method? And you mentioned your relationships have improved tremendously. Like, what was that shift for you? You mentioned the accountability, not new information, but like what before had you tried that didn't work?
Well, my biggest bottleneck was my mindset.
Hmm.
That and I'm pretty optimistic. I feel like I was pretty optimistic prior to meeting you guys. Um, but I just had I guess, some ideas. Well, one of them that I can think of right off the top of my head is around borrowing hard money.
Hmm.
I felt like, and maybe it was just pride that was blocking me from that, but I felt like, I didn't want to ask anybody for anything, and I didn't look at that as an opportunity that other people, it's an opportunity to help whoever's lending me the money on the short money. They're getting paid a good return. It's going to help me scale quicker. It's going to allow me to do more things than saving up my money and buying a house once a year. And that's completely shifted the dynamic of everything for me. Before I met you, I might have bought one house a year. Um, I couldn't even tell you how many deals I've done this year in the last year, at least 10. Probably more than that, and also some big things.
Yeah. That was so I want to go down that road with you for a minute. Um, because you are very unique in that I imagine this, but I assume everywhere I go, everybody always loves me. And I remember you said when you was at that meetup and I was offering to come to the event, what was it you said to yourself, or you said about not buying whatever you said? How did that go?
I'd asked around about you, and you know, I knew that there was a substantial investment required to join the mastermind, and I'm flying down to Orlando, and then the people I surrounded myself with, they didn't really support. They thought I was crazy,
Yeah.
and I flew down to Orlando with that mentality that I wasn't paying for a mentorship that I could, YouTube University's free, and just thought that's what I flew down there with,
Yeah.
and after the first day of being around you guys, I called my wife that night and made sure I wasn't going to have to sleep in the barn when I came home if I wrote y'all a big check.
What was that mental shift for you that took you from I can get YouTube University to darn, I need some accountability here. This really could change my life. Because ultimately you had that shift somewhere, but what was that like from there to there?
Well, one of the things, I think one of the things that's in some ways been a gift and a curse is that I'm the kind of guy that just figures it out. I
Mm,
jump in there and figure things out, and I think a lot of times that's prevented me from getting the help that would fast track me, because in the back of my mind, a lot of times I can think, I got this, I can figure this out. And
yeah.
that's been a transformational shift for me is, yeah, I can figure it out. And it might take me 4 years to figure out something, or I can connect with the right person and figure it out in 4 days or 4 hours, or, in a 4 minute conversation.
Yeah. I appreciate that perspective so much because coming from a background without a lot of money, that was a huge shift for me years ago. And I see so many people who get stuck in that loop because they've seen people who maybe didn't provide value at times, or they see places where what you just said, it's like, I know I can figure it out. I know you could have figured it out. You didn't need help figuring it out. You could have absolutely done it. But you said, wait a minute, I need to buy time. I need to squash down what might take me 4 years to a few weeks. And I love that perspective. So in that regard, like as you now, let's go through what has changed for you as you're building your business. You already said you went from doing maybe a deal a year to at least 10 in the last year. Take everyone through. Maybe someone's sitting in their living room or they're driving, listening to this or watching the replay or on with us live right now. Shout out to Judith and Tammy. Hello there. And for everyone who's watching live or someone who's watching the replay, like how do they break through the dam? How do they break through the thing that keeps holding them back? What's that shift? How can someone put that into action?
Really just taking a leap of faith.
Mm,
Here's the thing. Was it scary to write a big check and make that commit? Yes.
yeah.
And I don't know if there's ever an easy time to do that or to feel like there's the perfect time to do that. The time, I had to be at the point where I just, I know that if I write a check, I'm committed. I'm
Mm.
committed, and I'm all in. There's been a lot of benefits for me in taking that leap of faith for sure.
So let's go into the 10 deals, at least, maybe more that you've done. We got a piece of land we're working on together, which I know we'll have another meeting about here this week when I see you in a couple days. And so tell me how that happened. Because a house a year to 10 in a year to now 67 house development, like that's a crazy leap in a really short amount of time. That's a couple years. So what has that been like?
Been pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Really getting around the right people, talking things into existence, letting people know what I'm doing. We talk about becoming the person that attracts deals, become somebody that people like to say yes to. Everything's built on relationships, and my job is to figure out how to develop the best possible relationships with the people around me, and how to utilize those, help other people win. You say it over and over. If I help enough people get what they want, somehow I'm always taken care of.
Yeah. What has caused you, because you're someone who's very fun to say yes to, and you're someone who is just always yes, and so you're someone who's always you're always there. You can be counted on. So someone who is maybe feeling stuck, or they're going, gosh, like I'm missing opportunities. How do I position myself in that way? Like easy for you to say now, doing 67 development or doing 10 houses in a year. How do you actually become that person who starts attracting? What's that habit? Somebody watching this today could be like, this afternoon, I'm going to do X to start down a path or a journey to attract more success than I previously did.
Start making connections with people immediately. Go to meetups. Go be around people that are doing what you want to do. Go be around people, shake hands, introduce yourself, ask good questions, become a student.
I think that's a good point, because everybody I know who's fun to say yes to are forever students. The most successful people I know are forever students. And if we're not learning, we're dying. So I love that perspective. Um, what's something that you would love for people to know about you, your family, something that maybe not many people know?
I don't know. You might have to come back to me. Let me think on
We'll come
that.
back to that. So, what's either you pick? What's either the best deal you've ever done or the worst deal you've ever done?
Well, I did a deal. I can tell you a couple of them. I had the first flip I ever did. I got a house with a friend of mine, and I spent, I don't know how much time I spent out there working on the house. I was laying floors at the time, and I took the time off. It was in the winter time. We were a little bit slow, so I spent all my time out there, me and my helper, and watching YouTube. I remember the guy that I had working on. I had a friend from Indiana down there working on the house, getting a buddy deal. And that was an uphill. That was a challenge. He showed up about 11 and left about 1 o'clock every day. Get about 2 hours worth of work in every day, and I had another guy working on the roof that didn't come back to finish it. So, my helper asked me on the way out there one day. He said, "What are you doing?" I was watching YouTube videos. I said, "I'm figuring out how I'm gonna fix this roof today and get this thing finished." So, needless to say, I don't believe if I made any money on that, it certainly did not cover the amount of time that I had tied up in there.
That was an expensive seminar you paid for with your time.
Yes, 100%. I was paying for my college is what I was doing with that. I learned a whole lot. I learned a whole lot, but it cost me. I would have made more money just going to work and laying floors every day.
Yeah.
And then probably this land deal is the biggest deal. This is probably the biggest deal that I've been involved in. That's worked out to be a pretty sweet deal, and it was really just letting people know what I was doing. A good friend of mine connected me with somebody else with an opportunity, and attracted the deal.
That's awesome. What most excites you about this land deal right now?
Just the different opportunities that it presents. I'm excited about stepping into doing some new construction projects this year. There's just a lot of different opportunities. There's a few different spots that we could exit the deal. It's pretty teed up for anybody to take it and run with. The other thing that it's done is, it's really got me out of my comfort zone and getting around, doing some of the politicking in town with some of the people that I've been talking to, and really just kind of building relationships outside of my circle. That's been a little bit uncomfortable for me, but it's been a cool experience.
Something I want to point out, because I think a lot of people get stuck in this loop of, I know what I want, but in order to get what I want, I need to let go of what I got, but I don't want to let go of what I got till I get what I want. Many people live for decades in that loop. It's whether it be brand new to real estate of, gosh, I need the help to get there, but I want to get a deal so I can get the help, but I need the help to get a deal. Or whether it's saying I need a team so I can do more deals and scale, but I want to scale so I can afford to get a team. Like every level is the same darn problem. It just repeats until we finally break through that, as I described earlier, until we break through that dam and finally the whole floodgate opens. Oh my gosh, like this is what was on the other side. And I watched you not only do that in joining the mastermind, applying and becoming a member of the community here a couple years ago, but I watched it again. And I would want to hear your advice when you did this again. You had the flooring company, successful, paying well, and we're having a conversation. And remember, as we're having that conversation, you're talking about your vision. And your vision did not include running a flooring company in the weeds for the next many years. Your vision included with your family and with the wealth and cash flow and helping others and helping with the young men and doing the things that you're now doing. And we started talking about you selling the flooring company. What was that decision like? Because that was very recent. You took that leap, you sold the flooring company, and I noticed as soon as you'd done that, a plethora of opportunities flooded you. So describe what that journey has been like.
Well, there was some resistance around that as well. The discomfort of exactly what you just described, letting go of this before I got this, and until the flooring business was taking up some energy that would have been better. I felt was going to be better channeled somewhere else in another area, and shifting that energy over into focusing on real estate was going to allow me more freedom to spend the time with my family and do the things that I wanted to do. And I knew that was a shift that I wanted to make. I had to step into the abundance.
Yeah.
Had to let go of it and step into it and just trust the process and exactly what you said happened. I didn't know I sold the flooring business about 6 months ago. I didn't know 4 months after I sold the flooring business I was going to be in the middle of a potentially multi-million-dollar deal.
Yeah. Well, I think that's, though, the way it shows up commonly in life. We have, now, obviously, it takes trusting the right people and trusting your gut and your intuition and God, too. But while we don't make stupid decisions, we often, still to this day, like 80% of the decisions we make is a decision of, okay, we're going to do this thing just believing and knowing that it's in alignment and it's going to work out. And that's, you've got a wife, you've got a daughter, you've got an incredible community around you, and you carry a lot of responsibility, yet you're willing to take ownership and you're willing to take those leaps of faith. And I think that's so much that people listening to this can take from this and take from you. And I'm glad that you're sharing that. I want to find out one more thing before we wrap up the podcast today. You talk about helping the young men, a heart for helping others. I see that out of you. That's a side many may or may not know about you. You're successful. Yes, you're working on a multi-million-dollar development. Yes, you sold the flooring company. You've got all the cool moving parts you do, but underneath that is a heart to serve at a very high level. Give me a little bit of where that comes from and why it's so important to you to give back in the way you do.
I just wanted young people to know that they can go chase their dreams, whatever those dreams are. Somewhere along the line, I don't know where the messages came from or how I let it infiltrate my mind, but somewhere along the line, I quit dreaming and quit believing that things were possible. I have these conversations with, I had a conversation with one of my parents and asked, if you could do anything you want in life, what would it be? I don't know. I've never really thought about that. And I'm thinking, I said, well, why not? Why
Yeah.
not? And I think that it's easy for us to stop dreaming and believing that things are possible. And if we can, it's been my experience. If I can shift my mindset around that, there's nothing that's not possible. Everything is possible. And I really want young people to know, go chase your dreams. You can, anything that you want to do. My little girl asked me all the time, she's like, Daddy, she thinks rich people have Teslas. She said she wants a Tesla. I said, you can have one. You can have any car you want. You got to figure out how to get it. And, I think that that's the piece, figuring out how to make it happen.
Yeah. Training her right. And I love that heart and that heart for others. And it shows through. And it shows through in everything you do. I want to find out from you as we're about to conclude, one last thing for anybody who, and in this example, thinking about selling the flooring company, not yet knowing what the next opportunity is, or thinking about they know in their gut. Because every time I go to make a big decision, and I think this will help somebody listening, every time I go to make a big decision that is life transforming, every decision I've ever made, whether it was to get into real estate investing, I was terrified first. Whether it be to start public speaking, I was terrified first. When we launched the mastermind, frankly, I was terrified first. Every one of the big things that has altered my life in community and growth and revenue in any major way has come right before it a sense of intuition, knowing it was the right thing, but massive fear of what if. And so for somebody facing that, whether it be in like doing their first deal, whether it be in scaling, whether it be in selling the company, launching into real estate, like what is your advice to them? What's your way of finding out whether it is like a gut feeling of saying I shouldn't do this because of the fear, or a gut feeling of saying because I am fearful, that means all the more it's the right thing to do? How do you tell that difference, or what word of advice do you have?
I mean, discomfort's a part of growth
Hmm.
for sure. And I think what is most important with me is surrounding myself with the right people. It's easy if I start talking to my plumber about real estate, some of the comment, oh man, you're going to one of those meetings, or really, and I think that's the challenge with being around um, people that don't have the same vision as you.
Wow.
And maybe the same values. So I say align myself with people that's got the same values, that's moving in the same direction. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the same profession, but somebody that's focused on growth and leveling up in their life, being the best person that they can be. Surrounding myself with people like that
Yeah.
has been a transformational for sure.
I think that's a powerful statement. And it took me back when I was 21 and I went to my first seminar. And I remember two statements from people that came to me. One said, be careful. Like, real estate's a risky business. And of course, Jim Rohn always says, trying is risky, but wait till you get the bill for not trying. And then somebody else called me and he said to me, be very careful when you go to that seminar. Almost word for word. He said, they're going to try to sell you things and make you automate the business. And I was like, it tripped me up. They're going to try to sell me things and automate the business. And I was like, how is that bad? Right? If someone can sell me something that makes my life easier. Shoot, Apple sold me this computer. I don't think bad of Apple for it. I can't imagine my life without this computer. And it's such a powerful thing, again, when we just start to take ownership of our life and when we start to break through the fear. And I watch you do that at every level, whether it be in investing in yourself as you did, whether it be in selling the flooring company. And I just got to tell you, Kris, I am so giddy to watch what's next for you with not only this development, but I know there is some other great things that is coming. I know whether it's the event center, whether it is helping more young men locally or nationally, I am giddy. I'm beyond excited for what these next couple of years and beyond hold for you and your family, because the speed of growth of which has happened over the last 2 years has been astounding. And I know you're just getting started. Any final words of wisdom or final statements you want to make as we are about to wrap up?
Now's the time. Now's the time. If you're on the fence about what you want to do, if you want to make a shift, now's the time. There's no better time than the present. And I remember thinking about that throughout the years of taking the leap.
Mm,
And had I have stepped out on faith 5 years ago, who knows where I would have been at the time. The time's now. I can always make an excuse of why things aren't just right. They're never going to be just right.
yeah,
Now's the time. Get around the right people and dive in. Let's go.
I love it. I'm so grateful that you showed up and share like you do. You have such a great heart for others. Guys, if you have not come in contact with Kris before now, now's the time. So connect up with Kris, and you want to get to know this guy. He's doing a lot of great business and a lot of cool stuff. How do people reach out to you? You Facebook, social media?
Facebook's good.
Kris
Shoot me a friend
Dickey.
request on Facebook. Send me a message.
Perfect. Follow him on Facebook, send him a message, like and comment on all his stuff, and get his attention. All right. Thank you for being with us, Kris. It's always cool hanging out with you, and I'm excited to see you again in person in a couple days.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Be blessed, brother.
Thank you.
All
Yeah,
right.
you
Bye
too.
for now.